Today, I spoke with Senator Marco Rubio in his Capitol Hill office. The Florida Republican recently unveiled his own anti-poverty agenda. Senator Rubio, thank you for joining us for this discussion. Everyone seems to be talking about inequality, but they're also talking about opportunity, different definitions, or economic growth. Are these all part of the same argument for you?
Well, they can be, and here's why. So we look at what is the thing that's distinguished us from the world. It's the idea that no matter where you're born in life or what the circumstances are when you're born, like your parents being poor or not connected to power, you have a chance in this country to go as far as your talent and your work will take you. We pride ourselves on that, and rightfully so. It made us exceptional. What troubles us now is that the research now shows that there are other countries where the circumstances of your birth matter less than they do here. It's mattering more here than it is in other places. And we don't want to accept that, and we shouldn't accept that. So the second question is, why is that happening? Why is there an emerging opportunity gap? And the primary answer is because this new economy that we now live in, which is not an industrial economy, it is a post-industrial economy, is a knowledge-based one. In order to have middle-income, middle-paying jobs, the kinds of jobs that allow people to get ahead, you have to have a higher level of training and skill acquisition and education than ever before. And we have too many people that don't have those skills. And in fact, the people who would most benefit from acquiring those skills are the ones least likely to get it because of its cost or because of the way the system is structured.
Last week on the NewsHour, George Miller, liberal congressman from California, said that the secret to this, or at least the foundation, is raising the minimum wage. And the president today is signing his executive order, which would at least raise the minimum wage to $10.10 for federal contractors. Is that the foundation of...
That's certainly not the foundation of it. So, I understand they may support that policy initiative. But to argue that raising the minimum wage is going to create upward mobility is quite frankly silly. I mean, $10.10 an hour is not the American dream. The best way to look at it is to think about a person. For example, someone who I know is a receptionist at a medical clinic. She makes very little money, maybe more than minimum wage, but not a lot. She's a single mother who has 2 children to raise. So her life goes like this. She wakes up early in the morning, drops them off at school, works 9 hours, picks them up from aftercare, which costs a lot of money, takes them home, helps them with their homework, puts them dinner, gives them dinner, and puts them to bed. It's 10 o'clock at night. That's her life. The only way she's ever going to increase how much money she makes is if she can become an ultrasound technician or a lab technician or a pharmacy assistant, not just the receptionist at the medical clinic. To do that, she needs higher education. But how is she going to get higher education if she has to work and raise a family? The system we have in place now does not allow her to do that. That's the answer to the problem.
How does she benefit, stay with her for a moment, from your proposal to take federal anti-poverty spending, whatever it is, and put it in a block grant kind of flex fund and give it to the states to administer? How would that affect her?
Well, first of all, she actually isn't on poverty programs. She's employed, but she's a low-income person, but probably makes too much for any of the poverty programs. What she would benefit from is the wage enhancement program that I've talked about, which is taking the earned income tax credit and converting it into a wage enhancement where the same benefit is delivered through the paycheck. The other way she would benefit is through our education initiatives that now say you should be able to get the equivalent of a degree or an educational certificate by packaging together your work experience. So clearly she's doing work now that should count towards something. Free online coursework, paid or unpaid internships, testing and proficiency. For example, she could probably get 6 to 8 credit hours in Spanish because she can speak it already. She doesn't need to take courses to do that. And then create a mechanism, an alternative accrediting mechanism where you could package all those sorts of things together into a degree program that would give her the equivalent of a college degree at a much more flexible and affordable way.
Who pays for this? Who pays for these wage enhancements, if not the federal government?
Well, it is. It's the earned income tax credit. The money's there now. And the question is, all I'm arguing is not to do away with it. What I'm saying is let's transform it into a new way of delivering the same benefit.
But a wage enhancement is a subsidy. That's additional money in addition
to your paycheck. And it's determined by how much you make from the same money we're using for the earned income tax credit. Now, the argument is if you expand it so that it covers only single workers, so that doesn't just cover parents with children, but also single workers, would you have to put more money into it? And that's what we're working through as we prepare to file the legislation. But the bottom line, it already is there. That money's already being used. The only problem is it's being delivered once a year, early in the year, when you get your tax refund. What I'm arguing, a better way to deliver it is on a bi-monthly basis into your paycheck, as opposed to one lump sum at the beginning of the year.
You said in your speech on this topic a couple of weeks ago that the war on poverty, the Johnson-era war on poverty, failed. Explain why you say that.
Because it's incomplete. The War on Poverty programs help address the pain of poverty, so they alleviate the suffering of poverty, and that's important. You do have to do that. But they don't do the second step, which is help people emerge from the poverty. To help people emerge from the poverty, you have to understand what are the structural causes of it. And the structural causes of it are partially cultural. We know that, for the breakdown of families, destabilized neighborhoods, broken communities. And there's some things government can do about that, but a lot of that is on us as people. We've got to recognize that that's a real factor.
When you talk about the cultural piece of this, marriage in particular, and that is there's a correlation between marriage and people's ability to succeed, or at least to be mobile, economically mobile, what role does government play in that?
Well, first of all, we shouldn't penalize marriage. I mean, we do have safety net programs that disqualify you when the two incomes come together. You get kicked out of the program, so we shouldn't be doing that. As far as the impact that marriage has on children, the two reasons. One, from a practical perspective, 2 paychecks allow a family to have more buying power and more stability. And the other is there is real value in raising children in a strong and stable home. By the same token, it doesn't mean that we say, and the people that don't have that, we give up on. On the contrary, I think we recognize, as I have for a long time, and I've talked about this as I was in the state legislature, if you are a child oftentimes being raised by your grandmother, because your mom is working full-time, your dad's never been around, you live in a dangerous neighborhood in substandard housing, and the school that you're zoned into is not doing a good job, you have 5 strikes against you. How are you going to make it unless something dramatic happens to change that perspective? As
you know, we're suddenly all talking about this. In the past, Democrats were the ones who talked about poverty, and Republicans were the ones who talked about, I don't know, opportunity. Now it seems as if the two arguments are coming together.
Yes.
Am I right about that?
I think so.
Mike Lee, Paul Ryan, all giving speeches about it, and the president.
It could, but perhaps there's a difference, and I hope this issue doesn't have to be partisan or, quite frankly, highly political. I think we can agree that we want this to be a country of equality, of opportunity, and upward mobility. I believe that a vibrant free enterprise economy creates those sorts of opportunities, but I believe that there are barriers, educational barriers, cultural barriers, societal barriers, that are keeping people from accessing the promise of a vibrant free enterprise economy.
You say you don't want this to be partisan, but are you getting a lot of support from people in your party for this argument?
Sure. So I am. I mean, so some of the ideas are coming from think tanks like American Enterprise Institute. But I've
the Heritage Foundation didn't.
So as well.
Like
well, they do. I mean, they've been helpful as well in some of the ideas that we've worked on. And I think there is a drive towards that sort of reform notion that, look, we do have a growing opportunity gap in America. It's hard to ignore that. And the question is, what solves it? And there may be 2 schools of thought, right? We hear from the left that the school of thought is, well, let's just pour more money into 20th century programs. And my argument is that's not going to work. We need 21st century programs. We have to change the dynamic because the world, we're not in the Industrial Revolution anymore where you could leave high school, go work at the town factory for 50 years and retire with a pension. The 21st century looks different. It's been very disruptive. It's created a lot of insecurity. We have to adjust to that because the 21st century has real promise. Now, the higher paying jobs of this new century are fantastic. The problem is you have to have some level of higher education. Maybe not a 4-year degree, but some level of higher education to get those jobs. And the people who most need those jobs are the least likely to have that education.
Senator Marco Rubio, thank you.
Thank you.